We talked about in a previous video that Sonic 3 was looking to potentially up in Mufasa pretty heavily at the box office, and that definitely seems to be the case as Sonic 3 opened with a $62 million opening and Mufasa opened with a $35 million opening. But it also looks like there may be a Sonic 4 that we'll talk about as well. So we're going to read through this and get some thoughts on it here. So hi, I'm Jared with Captain Magic, and again, box office here, Sonic 3 bounds over the hedge with $62 million opening and Mufasa limps to $35 million. Sonic 3 gave theaters an early Christmas present this weekend, opening ahead of expectations with a $62 million domestic debut, and that's second best December start ever for APG Pictures since the Chronicles of Narnia: The Witch, the Lion, and the Wardrobe almost 20 years ago in 2005, not adjusted for inflation. That's no small feat, especially considering Sonic 3 went up against Hollywood's most formidable purveyor of PG fare, or used to be, Disney. After a string of mega wins this year, the studio hit a bump with Mufasa: The Lion King, which came in notably behind expectations with a domestic debut of $35 million. Not that Disney has nothing to crow about, the studio has crossed the $5 billion mark in global ticket sales. It's the first time any studio has done so since before the pandemic, and the sixth time Disney has done so since 2010. Heading into the weekend, Sonic 3 was always expected to beat Mufasa domestically, with tracking suggesting at start of $60 million range for the former and $50 million for the latter, but the gap was far greater than expected as both families and general audiences chose Sonic, which is based on Sega's classic video game. It says the male skewing pick has been embraced by critics and boasts a franchise best critic score of 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. That says that compares to 64 and 68% respectively for the first two, and a stellar 98% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes popcorn meter. It also earned an A cinema score and stellar post-talk exits. They don't mention Mufasa in that, but I don't believe it's getting the praise that Sonic 3 is. So I think these two movies, in terms of why they're performing the way they're performing, are based off a lot of the previous stuff that's happened. So Lion King, the first one, the live action adaptation, whatever you want to call that thing, did make $1 billion, but it was not good. I did not enjoy it. I enjoyed the original Lion King, and I think a lot of people a lot of people didn't like the first Lion King adaptation or the remake, and also these live action remakes that Disney keeps doing. I think a lot of people are just burnt out on these and done with them. And we've seen if a movie is good and it has success, it will do very well. But if a movie is not good, doesn't have good word of mouth, like it can do really bad. And it doesn't really matter who's making the movie. And I don't think the Disney name is going to move a movie alone anymore. So the fact that Mufasa is at $35 million opening, which this was projected to be $50, $60, $70 million opening, that definitely shows you that this movie doesn't seem to have the widespread appeal. I think it's being hurt by the former movie. And then also the fact that the word of mouth is not as good as Sonic. And I think Sonic's one of these movies, we've seen these where it has good word of mouth, the people enjoy it. These continue to do well, not have as much of a drop off in that second weekend. So it will be interesting to see Christmas week, how the movies perform in that way. But Sonic also has a pretty strong, fan base because, and we talked about in the last video, the first Sonic trailer came out when they did the first movie, and the Sonic did not look great. And the fan base did not react well to it. And the director in the studio said, okay, let us fix this. And they went back and they fixed it to be much more like the video game. And since then, they've done a lot of things to try and make the fan base happy. I know that's a shock to do things that your fan base wants and to give them the product that they're asking for. It's crazy stuff, but it's almost like it's paying off for them as you're seeing Sonic 3 do very well, and a lot of people have caught on to these and saying, oh, these are good movies, and they are good movies. We're going to see Sonic 3 probably next week, but they're solid, good family movies with a good message. They have heart to them. They're funny. They're very much after the video game. So if you're someone like me who played the Sonic games, you will get it. Even if you didn't play the Sonic games, it's still funny. It's got a lot of comedy in it. It's got a lot of stuff for kids. It just has a lot of mass appeal, and not just to video game fans, but given that the fact that they have made it very accurate, or as much as they can to the video games, this is the way you do this. You try and make the thing for the main audience, and then your main audience will become your biggest people going out there praising it and talking about it, and the word of mouth takes off. I think we're seeing this in real time go two separate directions, and we've seen this a lot with movies as well. So Disney has had a pretty good 2024 with $2 billion movies. Moana 2 is not going to hit $1 billion, but it's still doing pretty well. But just because it's a Disney movie does not mean that it is going to make a lot of money, as we see here with Mufasa. And I think next year you're going to see that as well with Snow White, as that movie is shaping up to be a disaster with Rachel Zegler, and they've been putting that movie off for a while now, but at some point they're going to have to take their lumps on that one. So 2025 may not be as great of a year for Disney as it was for 2024, but as of now with Sonic 3, I'm not surprised to see this. I'm actually pretty happy to see this because I've enjoyed the Sonic movies, the funness about them, and I like the fact that the franchise itself has been very open to trying to appease the fan base that enjoys the character, and it's pretty refreshing in this era of Hollywood. And of course, you talk about the cost here. Sonic 3 was much cheaper to make than Mufasa. Sonic 3 costs around $100 million. Mufasa is anywhere from $200 to $250 million. So right off the bat, the fact that Sonic's beating in that regard, even if they were neck and neck, Sonic would be making more money than Mufasa. At this point, I think the Mufasa movie is relying a lot of international sales. We'll have to see how those go. But domestically, doesn't look that great. If that trend holds up, this movie will end up losing money. You have a much more easy path to profitability when it comes to Sonic 3 versus Mufasa. And we already do know over at that Park Place reported that Sonic 4 has already been greenlit. So they're already expecting to do more Sonic movies, which again makes complete sense. You're talking about these video games have multiple different versions of them, and they're in the light of the video game. They don't take themselves too seriously. So you could do Sonic the Hedgehog movies for a long time. And again, you can make them relatively cheap. You look at Super Mario Brothers. That movie was around $100 million to make as well, and that movie made over $1 billion. So there is a lot of demand. I think more of these animated, Sonic's more of a cross between live action and animation in terms of the CGI in it, but a lot more of these video game based movies being much more in the spirit of the games themselves, much more family oriented seems to be the way to go with these, and having pretty good success there. But Sonic 3 either way is looking very good, shaping up after its first weekend, and we'll see what the drop off is in the next week after that. But it very well could be one where it ends up stomping out Mufasa pretty well, maybe slows down. I would love to see the end of these Disney remakes. I'm not a fan of them. I would much more appreciate original IPs, original material coming to the big screen. But we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. By the way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of theme parks and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about Sonic 3's performance, and are you surprised to see it? And until next time, we will see you later.